trust fund managers together to talk about best practices and lessons learned. And today we are happy to have with us two funds that will be presenting. First, Stefan Acha, who is the manager for the Urban Development Division at the African Development Bank, which is a newly established division dedicated to driving the bank's vision for African cities, including urban planning, policy and strategy, infrastructure, finance. Stefan has been an engineer in a previous life, and so brings lots of experience to this role. And he's going to talk to us today about the urban, the UMDF, as we call it for short. So Stefan, without any further ado, let you present your presentation and address the brown bag session.
Thank you. So let's press on the right button here. Is this correct? Are you seeing it properly?
Yep, we see it. If you can just do share full screen, I think.
Is that correct now? Is that correct now?
Yeah, you can. We still see your the notes slides, but so if you can, okay, if you can pop it out, that'd be great. And as you know, we will be doing questions after your presentation. So you have 20 to 30 minutes to present, and then questions after.
Okay.
That's better, Stefan.
Better. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Roderick, for the invitation, the new UMDF Trust Fund with our colleagues. So I'll go for the slides. We have the logo of the UMDF here. So as asked by firm, we will go through the different content, the overview, the partnership, and the objectives, and so on and so forth. So. The trust fund overview. It was created in April 2019, so almost more than a year ago. The trust fund size is still small, $5.5 million US. The fund is labeled under USD. That's important because all the contracts would be done in USD received, and the target size will be 50 million. I'm currently the manager for the urban division, and on the 1st of November we will get our urban coordinator. And that one of his activities will be with the support of firm to continue to increase the size of the fund in the years to come. The objective of the TA is to support and bring value addition to municipalities and cities. Sometimes I will use both cities and municipalities because some cities are municipalities and some municipalities, of course, they are cities. It's just a question of labeling in their development objectives. The structure, it's only a grant facility. There's no loans to date. And the area interventions are 1, city planning, 2, city governance, 3, project preparation, and 4, staff training. So the instruments are grants. The eligibility criteria, they are inside the operational guideline of the fund, of the UMDF fund. But mainly targeting municipalities, as well as specialized urban entities, which can also access the UMDF. Now, maximum grant of grants for the UMDF. Now, inside the UMDF, we have something also called the Small Grant Initiative. In some ways, we kind of we try to be clever here, and actually as a project that, as it was approved, inside the UMDF that actually allows us to do small activities, small projects that are up to $30,000 maximum. Otherwise, the normal grants under the UMDF, they can go up more than $1 million. But again, this is a small grant right now The average grant to date is about between $200,000 and $400,000. The donors till now are the Nordics, the Swiss, and the Belgians, but more should be on this way. Lifespan 10 years. The donor partners, as I just mentioned, there's 3 right now. There's more hopefully coming soon. And but we, as contributor to the bank, will be contributing in kind. So we're doing a bit like the World Bank. We put in kind contribution, which is the secretariat at the division, the Urban Development Division, where I am, with task managers for the projects, as well as a UMDF coordinator, a full-time coordinator, which will come on the 1st of November. Now, the objectives of the fund are the following. If you look at on the left, you have some of the key issues of our municipalities. And on the right are the pillars of the UMDF, our areas of intervention. First one is urban planning and management. The second one is project preparation. Again, project preparation, not the monster project preparation, not the $2 million project preparation, but the ones that are in the brackets of $200,000 to $400,000 project preparation. Improve municipal governance, from technical assistance to training, to building capacity, to systems like property tax, commercial tax, and the likes. And finally, increase bank capacity. So what we have done with the trust fund, and if you read the OPG, is that you will actually see that the trust fund is also geared towards us, the bank. That means we can also use the trust fund. And one of the projects that we are launching is actually our own strategy, own action plan for urban development for the bank, which will be funded from the UMDF. Now, eligible beneficiaries is very simple. It's cities and municipalities, as well as urban development specialized agencies. So sometimes one would say, what about the Ministry of Local Government? Well, it's a ministry, so it depends from the central government. So then becomes more, so we have to stay focused, and we try to be narrow, and our focus is really the municipalities, and there's a lot of them, so I think we should be busy. Specialized agencies. One of the things that we've seen with specialized agencies is that, again, we have nothing against specialized agencies, but they're very good at raising funds from various trust funds. So they are quite professional at that. So if you leave it too open for them, they will eat up all your money very quickly, we think. But municipalities, they don't know how to raise money from MDBs like us. So we will really focus. We are really focusing on the municipalities. So how does it work? The details, if you want, are in the OPG, but more or less, then the first step is project identification, and you can do it from your countries where you are, looking at what's happening in the cities, from the pillars that I've shown you: governance, project preparation, planning, capacity building. So you see what's happening, and then you can identify. The next thing is to submit your project brief to the UMDF coordinator. The next thing is the UMDF coordinator will bring all this brief together and prepare something called the annual work program that needs to be cleared by the oversight committee. So if I put I don't know if you see my Roderick, if you see my mouse. The next element is development of project PIMS, the project information memorandum. You will see that the same with IPPF. We've inspired ourselves from IPPF, and then the PIM is submitted to the technical committee for approval. The PIM is reviewed by the technical committee. There could be a back and forth with them, and once it's cleared by the technical committee, then we can execute. We have the project approval and the signing of the grant agreement with the city. As well as firm will issue the TFMS codes, so you can actually go ahead and procure. It's important that the UMDF can do both beneficiary executed and bank executed, but our donors and ourselves are going for the bulk of the activities will be bank executed. So in many ways, we are becoming a bit like JICA. So where we will not be throwing things to special accounts, but we'll do as much as possible, at least on the first round of money on bank executed. And then, of course, you have the implementation, supervision and reporting, and finally, budget completion reports and the same. You will see a small arrow here in the middle that I've just put. It's called SGI, Direct to UMDF Coordinator. The small grant initiative actually bypasses all this. Again, the amount is limited, $30,000. That one is really for small activity. Let's say a city needs to have a quick review in, I don't know, in the legal framework. That looks like a 3 months work of a consultant. Or they need to organize a big conference or a small conference on I don't know, decentralization, or you need to run a workshop on the municipality of Ouaga needs to run a workshop on land management. That's not a big ticket item. That's maybe a $10,000 or $20,000 item. That doesn't need to go through the whole process. That is a small grant initiative. So that one goes straight to the coordinator, and the coordinator just simply clears it with management, and it's done. And then it's bank executed for direct payment. So that could be interesting, especially for the small activities. So that's why it's called the small grant initiative. All right. So sorry, I forgot to remove the ADFI. So it's UMDF governance structure. The department management is done by director of PICU, the manager, myself, and the UMDF coordinator. So basically, we review and clear the annual work program, which is actually then goes to the oversight committee for approval, and then we roll it out. The technical committee, you have a whole bunch of people from different departments. It's in the UMDF OPG. It reviews the PIMs, benefiting from the UMDF resources, ensure that all this is technically sound and aligns with the OPG, as well as the bank rules. So what is the approval level at the UMDF? Above $1 million, it goes to the president. Between $1 million and 500,000, it is to the VP of PIVP. Anything below 500,000 is cleared by the director of PICU. So it's very simple. We don't go back to the board. That was one of the waivers that we had on the UMDF. So the board waved itself goodbye. So we don't go back to them ever. The track record, the fund launched in March 2019. We committed 1.9 million on the 2019-2020 program with 6 projects, and those have been launched. And the UMDF coordinator will be receiving the 2021-2022 cycle, and he'll be joining the bank on the 1st of November. That's one thing that we were committing to the donors, that we will have a full-time coordinator. Unfortunately, we were only 2 of us. We were 3 of us together that includes me, in the urban division. So we were limited. Now we are 6. So we actually have more firepower. So I've distributed the staff regionally, and the coordinator will be looking both at the UMDF as well as North Africa to start with. So he should be able to pick up all those activities. So the road and progress so far, we are currently launching city diagnostic. The SUDAP is a Sustainable Urban Development Action Plan. We have a small grant initiative. We have a special program that was actually identified by the president of the bank with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia for Addis, called the Addis River Infrastructure Design Upgrade, as well as long-term consultants to support municipality that the Nordics have asked. So those actually are progressing. That is important that I show you this, because so that you know how the division will work. Again, Roderick will know that when the divisions was created actually only last year, we were only a few. We were only altogether 3. Alice Balamba, Victoria, and I. Since then, we've grown. So you will see in this map, and it's quite important that you have a look at this, because you will see that, for example, each region has now a urban development focal point. For example, Southern Africa will have Victoria Flato, who's currently the coordinator for the fund until the full-time coordinator comes on the 1st of November. East Africa is Babati Moketi. North Africa is Marcus Mayer. Marcus Mayer is the one joining us on the 1st of November. West Africa is Sheku Balde. And Central Africa is Nigel Arbi. So if you want task managers and colleagues from other departments and other can also interact with the regional focal point for urban development, and maybe that facilitates how you bring your brief and so on and so forth to the UMDF. I would actually really recommend that you work through the focal point and actually to get things going. So again, Marcus Mayer will be the UM coordinator. So next firm meeting, he will be doing the presentation. So for now, you can actually send ideas and project brief to Victoria Flato. So here I am. We are the Q&A. Back to you, Roderick.
Thank you, Stefan. So we have, we're gonna wait for a couple questions to come in, but as we're waiting, a number of people are asking to share the PowerPoint presentation, which we will do. But just listen, Stefan, maybe an overarching question before we have people come in. Just in terms of the need for the UMDF. Talk to us a little bit about, I mean, you have the amount that you have currently, but what could possibly be the need if you had your way in terms of the amount of the fund and what it would be used for?
The needs are quite substantial, Roderick. Our municipalities have huge amount of needs from the governance side. And when I talk about governance, it's really about management. It's maybe that's the easiest way that we can understand. How do we get our revenues in our cities? That means our property tax. And then from there, from your land use plans to your sector plans, including your transport plans, your housing plans, your affordable housing plans, as well as your utility plans, and so on and so forth. So those frame what we call the development of the city. It controls the development of the city, and that allows then for specific project preparation. So that's another pillar of the UMDF, and as well as help investment to be channeled in a way that is structured. So we try to bring the same kind of operational discipline to cities that we have in other sectors like transport and others. So one of the key elements of even before jumping at sea is the staffing of municipalities is still, apart from the front cities like the ones in Morocco, South Africa, maybe out of Kenya, maybe out of Cote d'Ivoire, the frontier countries, the Senegals, the rest of our countries on our continent, unfortunately, have very ill-trained and very few staff, qualified staff in the municipalities. So we need to start from the upstream. And that's really what senior management has asked us to do, is to really help them out upstream. So when task managers are working, and the CPOs and colleagues are working in cities, often you will actually see those elements missing. So that's one thing that the UMDF can actually help, is the upstream capacity building, planning, governance, and then as well as project preparation.
Okay, thank you. There's a couple questions that have come in. One is about what informed the choice of the focus countries? And then two, who is the focal point for Nigeria?
All right, so do you want me to share that screen again?
Yes, you can.
Okay. It's funny enough, I don't see my. Okay. I don't seem to have my.
Well, maybe you can just talk about what informed the choice of the focus countries.
Okay, you mean the focal points?
The focus countries, the countries that you're focusing on.
Oh, the focus countries.
Yes.
Okay. Those are countries that where you already have actually operations. If you look at Cote d'Ivoire, for example, the reason why Cote d'Ivoire is on the list for Sheikh Ubaldi to kind of focus is because we're going to piggyback on, for example, the Projet Transport Urbain Abidjan, so which is already a huge project, and so we need to kind of go with this. In the Gambia, same thing. We already have activities going in Banjul, so we need to expand this. So, in many ways, some countries it's not already in our radar. Not because we don't want to be there. One, we cannot do everything. Even with six staff division, the continent is 54. So if you divide, you'll see that each staff is going to have a bunch of countries to look after. So we can't do everything. So we have to focus a little bit and be a little bit more selective. So we always try to start in a country where we already have some presence and some good understanding with the local government and especially the mayors. The end result is once a mayor of a city is showing interest for reforms, for development, then it's somebody we can work with. If we can't just go somewhere and try to do, it has to be demand driven also. So that is going to be you need two to tango with the mayors. So that's what we're going to building the first year, is really develop that partnership between the focal point, regional focal point, and the mayors of the key cities, the target cities.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. And another question, how will the funding work? Will the cities and urban town be eligible to apply directly or through countries?
They can apply directly. They can go directly to the UMDF coordinator, absolutely. Okay. But as you know, it's always good manners. It's always good manners to let for example, the parent ministry, which is often the Ministry of Local Government, as well as our counterpart, which is generally the Ministry of Finance or the Ministry of Economic Planning, know what you're doing. It's grants, so they won't have any impact on your budget or your ceiling. So, but I think the problem here, Roderick, and I think it's good for our colleagues to understand. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the political color of the mayor in the city may be different than the political color of government, central government. So that little tension needs to be managed by the task manager. Not that we know how to do it. I don't think the World Bank is better at us or whatever, but we have to understand that it's at the end the sovereign is sovereign. So even though we're dealing with municipalities and local government, we'll have to learn how to balance sometimes different political opinions on things. For example, I'm sitting right now in South Africa. The key towns are controlled by Democratic Alliance, while the central government is controlled by the ANC. So if you're supporting Joburg, you'd still have to tell the National Treasury that you're doing this, even though the government is a different. So you have to handle that particular element. Long story short, cities can go direct to us, but it's a good idea for them just to inform the central government. Thank you.
Okay. Next question is, a concern is that trust funds hardly deal with the entire cycle to bring infrastructure through to procurement stage or delivery. So is most of the activity in the governance, knowledge, and pre-feasibility stages. It says, I doubt the amount can deal with the medium or large scale urban projects.
That's a very good question. The problem, our current problem right now is the fund is still small. a project preparation would be about, if we're looking at 1% of the investment. So if you have a $100 million project, you're talking about $1 million project preparation, at least, Roderick. And it could be actually much more. So you could wipe up the fund in one project or two projects if you're not careful. The issue is how to be clever and how to do small scale projects or help on the upstream activity. Make sure that all the foundations are right. Let's take one concrete example. Most of our cities need to reform on their either property tax, commercial tax systems. Cadastral systems can be very expensive. One city could actually eat the entire UMDF. If it's Kinshasa, it'll be like 10 times UMDF. Okay, so this is the issue. Before you jump in head and shoulder, you need to kind of have a diagnostic of what's cooking, what is currently the system on place. And then once you've done that, you prepare the terms of reference for the actual implementation. This is where the UMDF is interesting. So it's the $100,000 activity that actually kind of sees what's currently the system in property tax in Kinshasa, and actually lays down the key issues and prepares the packages that needs to be prepared to be financed. And then you've done all your homework, and then we can actually scale it up with either ADF money, with EU money, with whoever money, IDA money. So this is the trick here, that we need to be like upstream. And I opened the bracket here. The small grant initiative is that $30,000 max, but that's even very quick. So a task manager should be able to come access to this very quickly. Speed is of essence nowadays. If you're going to take 6 months to get something, people won't look at you. If it needs to be done in 6 weeks. From project brief shows up to the coordinator looks at it and then says and gives you the okay and to purchase whatever you need to purchase, consultants or whatever to your meeting or your small study. That needs to be done in a couple of weeks, and that's what the small grant initiative should do. So that's all we can do right now, but I think it can be interesting.
Okay, no, very well noted. Here's a comment, which is, I hope climate resilience of infrastructure will be one of the selection criteria for the proposal.
Yes, I mean that's a bank policy. I mean it's in all our interests. For example, the work that Victoria is doing in Addis, that's entirely a lot part to do is climate resilience, especially towards adaptation. Yeah, we are actually the Nordics have been very clear with us on that element. Again, I just mentioned it during the presentation that we're doing the SUDAP, the Sustainable Urban Development Action Plan for the next 5 years, which is actually financed by the trust fund, and that has a full component on climate resilience element. Okay.
What about, Stefan, there's a question about communication. Is there a communication plan so that cities and municipalities know about the fund?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. You have a really excellent audience here, Roderick. I will leave that to the coordinator when he shows up on the 1st of November to kind of detail that, to get our website and all this stuff in. My worry about opening up and the donors, if I'm $50 million plus, maybe I will launch a call for proposal at this time, because each country has at least 10 big cities. So we're talking, just before going into detail, 540 cities just out of the back of the envelope. If those guys start showing up and sending a proposal, you'll have a gazillion things to look at, and you'll be swamped. So the idea that management is telling us, and the donors have been telling us, is let's be selective. Let bank staff, through the dialogue with the country, come up and do the selection, and try to be like internal to start with. And then once the trust fund becomes like a big monster, and I hope that one day it will become major fund, then we actually can do those call for proposal and blah blah. But a website definitely would be there available for sure.
Okay. Here's an interesting question for you, Stefan, which is, with the high demand for project preparation facilities, how flexible is UMDF in aggregating with partnering with similar funds such as NEPAD-IPPF to scale the bank's interventions? Are you open to partnership with other funds?
Out of the bat, I would say co-financing, no. Parallel financing, yes. That means that the UMDF would take the part of the chicken that looks after us, that looks after the city, and IPPF could look after the other part of the chicken that is something else. So if you say, let's give it a concrete example, solid waste. You want us to have a first look and like a pre-feasibility on the solid waste. Even though there is, I think there's some facility in solid waste in the bank, we could actually work with them on the part of the, if you want, the upstream planning for solid waste as part of the city utility planning, for example. That could be done. And then once we detail this and prepare all the technical capacity or technical issues for launching, for example, either a more detailed study or actually launching it to go to the market to be able to tender services for solid waste collection, treatment, recycling, blah blah blah. Then that is pushed to another trust fund that actually could do the heavy lifting there. So I see the UMDF a lot as a catalyst, Roderick. So co-financing, probably not at this point, but parallel, upstream, I think that is our role. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. There's a question: what are the key criteria to decide for funding urban local bodies? Is it only demand driven, or funding needs some sort of support from sovereign guarantees?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I think the gist of the question is, does it need greater support than just at the urban local bodies? I mean, is there some type of intervention that the sovereign or that a federal part of the government needs to come in to help?
I'm not sure if I pick up the question. I'm not picking up the question.
It's asking about funding for urban local bodies. So
so we're talking about the water boards or the local, yeah, it could be a local solid waste management company. Is that what we're talking about?
I think so, from the question. And it says, is it only demand driven, or funding needs some sort of support from sovereign guarantees?
Now, if you talk about sovereign guarantee, you're probably talking about subnational finance. That's another couple of, as you know, the bank approved in 2019. Maybe to answer to our colleague here, in 2019, the bank approved what we call the subnational finance instrument. It went together. It's working like a peas and mashed potato with the non-sovereign operation guideline. So what happens is the municipality or the state enterprise or the things like utility, water board, even the local power producer, IPP, whatever, they can actually borrow on the subnational with the sovereign guarantee or without a sovereign guarantee. If it's not sovereign guarantee, it then becomes an NSO operation. Then all this risk determination, and for municipality, you have all this rating business. And so that's a scoop. At the end of November, we are doing a big webinar with Strategy. Strategy is the one that puts together that new instrument for subnational finance, and to try to get our colleagues how to approach cities for lending. It's not an easy thing. IFC and World Bank and so on and so forth have been a bit getting trouble on this. If there's a sovereign guarantee, no big deal. I mean, we're safe. but the post-COVID, there's going to be less and less sovereign guarantee, and you can just talk to any VP and they'll tell you the same thing. We'll have to go in more and more NSO and be clever how to use our also guarantee systems for municipalities to, just like the president mentioned last time, syndication, municipal bonds, and local currency finance. I'm just picking up exactly what he said at the last town hall. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess piggybacking off of that question, there's another question about how can UMDF focus on activities that enable municipalities to access classical resources of the bank, meaning larger scale amount of resource and projects?
Sure, that's fine. As part of the governance, that's fine. One could actually look at under governance as a readiness review or capacity building for being able to borrow. So what are some of the key elements? Making sure that they have audited accounts, that their taxation systems is working efficiently. There's not too much loopholes. If, for example, you go to Abidjan, where you're sitting right now, or Roderick, the informal number is that the city is collecting, well, the fiscal plate is not 100%. The fiscal plate is around maybe 50%. That's my discussion I had with local technicians at the revenue side of the government and the communes. So if they improve the collection systems, then suddenly they will have a lot more money, and they actually will be a lot more bankable and be able to go to the market themselves, either to the commercial banks, raise bonds to capital market. So this is the partnership that we would do with Stéphane Nalitambi's shop, people like Cedric and Emmanuel Diarra. Again, urban development is territorial, so everybody is a big house, it's a big tent. So we'll have to work with Nalitambi, with Emmanuel Diarra for all the financial instrument part to help, just like we did last year with the Fonds d'équipement communal in Morocco.
Mm-hmm. Okay, listen, 2 more questions for you, Stéphane. We appreciate your time. First, someone's wants to know about your replenishment. So does the fund accept contributions from any other donors, and how will replenishment be done?
Yes, that's a very good point. I'm not even waiting for replenishment. I'm currently running behind other donors with you guys, actually, with the team of firm. We've got the Spanish government, the Austrian government, the Brazilian government, and I've been knocking the doors on even private sector with Valerie in India and others. So DFID is one of them that I've been running behind for a while now. They seem to be uncatchable, but we'll catch them one day. So it's same thing with the EU. So this is where I count on on firm to help us out. I would think by 2022, I need to kind of get something like $5 to $10 million in the kitty. I think that's the kind of the target. And SECO, which is one of our donors, have already indicated that they are very willing to upscale significantly their contribution next year. So the ball is in our court. We need to deliver on a lot of things now, and then show progress, and then I think success breeds success.
Excellent.
Well, failure breeds failures.
We're here to support you, Stéphane, as always. Listen, last 2 questions. First is, can the fund be used to develop proposals for mobilizing resources from, for example, the Green Climate Fund or other sources? So can you use it as a catalyst to tap into financing from other funds?
That's a very good question. We are currently working with our friend upstairs with Tim at GCF. We work a lot with Ayanle with GEF and the CTF colleagues. So that's a very good point. I think The answer to this is yes. How do we again, we can do many things. I really encourage colleagues to use the small grant initiative. I'll send the PowerPoint, and then you can send. The small grant initiative is a small amount, but that's quickly executed. Now, if you make a good case for us to kind of say, okay, this money is going to start preparing the project, and I need to have specialist consultant that I need to bring in to kind of package this together, either as a program for several cities or a particular country. I think that's definitely a good usage of the money. I know that environment people have some sort of similar activities, but as long as it's in the cities, I'm fine.
Okay, excellent to know. Are all project procurement categories eligible, goods, works, and services? No, that's a very good question. No, we are mainly talking about services here. Maybe a little bit of goods under a small grant initiative. For example, if you need to buy, let me rephrase this. If the city, for example, needs to have some new systems of management and software for their let's say the accounting, for their revenue systems, SAP or others, then we can actually do that, but not works. So limited goods, but specialty services. Okay. Last question. People keep coming up with questions as we try and close out. So it says, assessments reveals there is a significant urban investment demand by the mid-sized cities to attain long-term sustainability and development in Africa. How will opportunities to leverage work with COVID-19 and the cities that are becoming more fragile, like how will you handle this? Yeah, that's going to be the mountain in front of us is huge, colleagues. I think my boss and senior management has been telling us to be selective. But you look at what the devastation of what COVID has done and is currently doing, especially in this recovery phase where we are. In some ways, from COVID, that's my personal view, we've gone for the easy part. From now, 2021, 2022, we're going to be in the real hard stuff. That means because the revenues have gone down and we've been under perfusion from those budget supports. Now they're gone and they're all indebted. Now, how are we going to get the city back to be working, back to work? And we'll have to be much clever than before. So that means how to put people back to work, maybe in smaller construction activities. Frankly, I have one of our ex-colleagues on urban, who is now the minister in Benin of development. His name is José Tonato. His Excellency is José Tonato. And he's doing a lot of actually small scale with local contractors works in the various cities of Benin. That seems to be working very well. For those who have been in the bank for a while, you know that in Tunisia, for example, the contractors were they subcontract a lot, and you have all this hundreds of small contractors doing small pieces of work. So that gets a lot of people to work. How to bring people back to work in the smaller towns. We can't do everything, and sometimes you need to focus on the system. And if you fix the system, then it rolls out. I don't think we have the money here for doing works on secondary cities. But what we can do is fix the property tax system, or the commercial tax systems, or how the grant system from the central government goes to the cities, and make sure that the holes in the baskets are plugged in, and we have real decentralization, both political and fiscal decentralization, so that people can actually are in charge of their future, and not everything is decided by Abidjan, everything is decided by Nairobi, everything is decided by Dakar, which is generally the way not to go. Yeah. Okay, last comment. Someone is a recommendation from someone. Someone says, one way to approach resource mobilization for the UMDF is to finance a study of 10 emerging cities across 10 countries and identify their actual needs and take the brief into donor meetings. Have you thought about anything like that, Stefan? Going out and getting actual needs so that you can then aggregate them and come up with a better case.
Correct. That's a very, very good. I mean, your audience is top-notch, Roderick. Really, our colleagues are fantastic. You know what we're doing, and I haven't spent too much time on this because that would be then rolling out what we're doing in the UMDF. We're doing something called the city diagnostic. You probably saw it on the slides. That a city diagnostic does that in many ways. It actually looks at the issues and then comes out with an action plan. The regional managers for infrastructure have identified the first batch of cities. We're starting with 5. Next year, we'll get another 5, and then we'll roll out like this. Now, so when the year kind of ends, I should have not 10 emerging cities. I will have 5 emerging cities. And those cities were chosen by the regional managers because, again, because those cities are cities where the bank will be spending money in the future. In the north, for example, we're doing a diagnostic on Bizerte. We're doing one in Guinea-Conakry in West Africa, in Libreville in Gabon, in Tananarive in the south, in Dodoma in the east. And then we'll do a second batch of cities again. So that may end up, may not exactly, but it will end up with the information to be able to go to donors because they will have already mapped out the priorities, issues, governance, and then project with an action plan for each of the cities. Then we can go to donors and say, those are the needs, and let's go.
Excellent. Stefan, thank you very much. Continue the good work with UMDF. And we look forward to talking to you again when the coordinator is on.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think the coordinator will be more useful than I am. I'm only like holding his chair for him, and I will send you the PowerPoint now, Audric.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Stefan.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Epifanio.
Yeah.
How are you? Are you ready?
I am ready. I am ready. I am ready.
Excellent. Listen, let me just, I'll do a short introduction and then you can kick off your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So, Epifanio Carvalho de Melo joined the bank in 2008. He's currently the Principal Energy Infrastructure Specialist in the Infrastructure Partnerships Division, PQ3, where he's also the Task Manager of NEPAD-IPPF's energy projects. He has extensive experience in public and private sector participation in delivering energy infrastructure projects, and he's going to take us through NEPAD-IPPF today. 20 to 30 minutes of presentation, Epifanio, and then questions.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anyway, thank you for inviting NEPAD-IPPF to this brand bow presentation. I think that means what you did very well, you put two back-to-back facilities with different experience, which means the Stephen Archer facility is a new one, recently established. Basically, it can talk to you, it talks to you about their processes. But NEPAD-IPPF is 15 years old facility. We need to talk to you about our lessons learned, best practices, and experience in the field. Which means with these two presentations, you have two different perspectives. A new young facility that talk to you about its processes, what is expecting to do in the future. And then NEPAD-IPPF, on the contrary, is the one that has obligation to share with you lessons, best practices, and experience in the field of project preparation. But before we get into presentation, I mean, we have to contextualize what is the project preparation. I mean, what is the importance of project preparation? As you know, project preparation is at earth or center of development banking or development financing, which means without well-prepared bankable infrastructure project, development banking cannot take place. Because all these things that we think we approve on the board is because the project is prepared. Therefore, NEPAD-IPPF, without economic and social infrastructure, no continent, no region, no country can develop. Therefore, economic infrastructure is a key enabler of economic and social development of any country, region, and the continent. I tell you that basically, without this project, without the well-ready, prepared, bankable project, no development can take place. Now, just going back with NEPAD-IPPF. NEPAD-IPPF basically has its historical background, institutional history. That started in 2002 in Kananaskis G8 Summit, that NEPAD-IPPF was launched as a bilateral fund with Canada. And then ADB also signed the role of hosting that fund. That in 2003, the bank approved NEPAD-IPPF to operate as Untitled Common Fund and then open to bilateral and multilateral donors. In 2004, it was operationalized. The first year, we approved 4 projects, 2004. In 2005, NEPAD-IPPF became a multi-donor trust fund with contribution of Denmark. We started with Canada. Now, 2005, Denmark joined. In 2008, we approved the first strategic business plan and a key priority areas to guide NEPAD-IPPF in its operation. But in 2011, basically, what happened? Because NEPAD-IPPF started START is in a short-term action plan. When we did, before getting to PIDA, then we moved to medium long-term strategic plan. Only in 2012, we have this PIDA that we call Program of Infrastructure Development in Africa, that set up priority action program, and then it was adopted, and then IPPF mandate as a PIDA support fund, which means as a facility that's supposed to prepare the bankable project for Program of Infrastructure Development in Africa. That was approved in 2012 in African Union meeting in Addis Ababa. Then in 2016, we had a second strategic plan, which is our guide for the future of our operation. Now in 2019, we conducted independent evaluation of the fund, and then we commemorate the 15 years anniversary of the fund. In 2020, you have new things, which mean amendment to operation procedure, introduction of reimbursable grants window, and the introduction of technical assistance window, and extension of the fund duration to 2035. Which means myself, as you saw, I joined the bank in 2008. I have 12 years experience I have to share with you. Rationale for NEPAD-IPPF Special Fund is the preparation, is the project preparation, which is a key step to ensuring availability of infrastructure projects. I spoke about that. Then we know that Africa needs viable projects. We spoke about that. Right? And then NEPAD-IPPF was established precisely address the lack of investment really via a project, which is one of the weaknesses of infrastructure development in Africa. Now, NEPAD-IPPF as a regional project preparation facility, its aim is supporting regional integration in trade. Because without physical infrastructure, you cannot basically integrate the continent. Because you have to enhance the market connectivity and then mobility of goods and people. Without those infrastructure, it cannot happen. Africa would continue to talk about, African Union without infrastructure, you cannot make that happen. And then NEPAD-IPPF was crucial to deliver the regional bankable project for approval, for financing, in order to allow construction of physical infrastructure in the continent. And then later on my presentation, I'm going to show you what we deliver in terms of physical infrastructure. Then going to another reason for NEPAD-IPPF rationale is development of regional infrastructure, which is critical to sustain regional economic development, which is clearly articulated in Agenda 2063, SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, and then the I5, these strategic priorities for Africa. Then bridging infrastructure gap has been also identified as an important element of the promotion of regional integration in Africa. Last, what is the challenge? We have huge infrastructure need in Africa in terms of 130 billion, 107 billion, with definitely. Unless we're addressing this gap, basically, it's very difficult to think about integration of the continent, let alone the development of the continent. Now, what is our mandate and then governance structure? Our mandate, essentially, is to assist regional member countries, regional economic community, and their related institutions to prepare high-quality and viable regional continental infrastructure projects in the economic sector of energy, and water, in ICT, and transport sector. The projects that can seek financing from public and then private sources. How we discharge this function? We discharge this function to targeting promotion of quality regional infrastructure projects and programs suitable for private and public sector financing. We discharge this function to provide grants to regional member countries, regional economic community, for advancing the preparation of regional infrastructure projects and programs with high probability of implementation. We discharge this function with promoting ownership and participation in project preparation required to generate a quality project. We discharge this function in ensuring quick access to funds and quick disbursement of funds approved to respond to priority investment program of regional member countries, regional economic community, and a continental program. We support the creation of enabling environment for private participation infrastructure, as well as supporting target capacity building initiatives. Now, next difference. Now, what are the scope of our activities? Our activities mainly, we focus on just enabling environment, designing legislation, regulatory approach, and institutional reform, and capacity building, and consensus building. Because you're working with regional organizations, unless you're building consensus of that organization, you're building capacity of those organizations, implementation cannot take place. Then, next step, we're doing project definition. We're defining the project by identification of desired outputs and then project parameters. We compare alternatives. We plan the implementation tasks. We're doing pre-feasibility study. Pre-feasibility is optional study. We study options before we go into a best option to carry out feasibility. You have to study option. Studying option will reduce your risk in funding something that will not work later on. This is what we call it pre-feasibility, optional study. And that optional study, we try to select best option to carry out the implementation of the project. Now, moving, once we select the best option from pre-feasibility side, we move for feasibility and then detailed design. What do we do in detailed design? We study technical option analysis, financial appraisal, socioeconomic appraisal, environmental impact assessment, assessing project financial options, public-private partnership, and then we produce financing plan. Then we move to structure the project, transaction advisor, which means basically when you get to the phase of feasibility, viable project, but then you have to structure the project to tell you, to let you know, how you can deliver the project. Is through public sector window, concessional fund, is through private sector or PPP. This is the reason you need the structure of project. And then structure, the transaction advisor that will structure the project will help you get the project till its commercial contract. You procure it, procurement stage. You get the bid in place, you select the best contract to implement the project. Then you move to financial close. Financial close, before support for financial close, what are we doing? When the project is ready, we work with the regional economic community and then project sponsor to support them in road shows, investor relationship, donors conference, to market the project to probably investors, to potential investors. We do that because you cannot just finance feasibility side. You let your client with project that can be on the shelf. You have to follow the client, making sure that basically the project reach financial close. Because basically, if just we leave the project in a phase of feasibility, we don't support our client throughout the financial close. We may start with another project that is prepared, but no one wants to finance that. This is our obligation to accompany our clients till they get financiers, investors that want to put money in that project. We do also non-project related activities. This is the scope of NEPAD-IPPF activity. That's on the right. On the right. On the left, you see planning, scoping, feasibility, bankability, financial close, and then impact development. Okay, what are the sectors we focus on? As I said, we focus on economic sector, in transport, energy, ICT, transboundary water, and in capacity building. You need all these tools because without building capacity on your client, your sponsor, executing agents, you may get your project stuck long time on the shelf, cannot move financial goal. This is the reason you need to build the capacity of this regional organization. What are the subsectors of our intervention? In transport, we have roads, aviation, maritime, railways, multimodal. In energy, you have generation, distribution, energy efficiency, electricity transmission, renewable energy, and oil and gas. Then you have transboundary water. You have in telecommunication, ICT. You have basically institutional and technical capacity building of executing agents and project sponsors to be able to implement the project. Who are our donors? On the left, you have our donors, which is Germany through KfW, BMZ. You have Canada. You have UK through the FIT, UK aid. You have Norway, Norwegian Minister of Foreign Affairs. You have Spain. You have Denmark through DANIDA. These are currently donors of NEPAD-IPPF that provide funding grant for us to assist the regional member countries to prepare that bankable project. We work with partners. We alone, we cannot do that. This is why we have been partners in that process of moving our project to financial close. We work with partners like African Union Commission, NEPAD agents in their different capacity. One do strategic policy orientation, African Union Commission, NEPAD-IPPF helps you to make sure that the project that you select in your pipeline is one priority for the continent. This is what we call new partnership for African development. They have they have the rules and the procedure to allow you to allow NEPAD-IPPF to make sure that the projects that we select in our pipeline is in line with African development requirements. We have the African Investment Forum that, by the way, in 2018, 3 or 4 projects prepared by NEPAD-IPPF was taken by African Investment Forum. Because African Investment, as you know, is the risking platform. It's making sure that you get investment for the prepared project, for bankable project. And then NEPAD-IPPF, as I said, is in the business of preparing bankable projects. And we have USAID. In some of the projects, they are co-financiers. And then we have Africa 50, regional power pools, regional power pools like WAP, Southern African Power Pool, and then you have East African Power Pool, and that we have Central African Power Pool, which is the regional institution in charge, specialized regional institution in charge of supporting preparation of regional projects in their respective region. We work also with UNECA at strategic level, because this is the Economic Commission of the continent. Yes, there are one that set up strategic direction. We have to listen to them. And then we work also with partners like JICA in co-financing our infrastructure project. By the way, there are projects like the Kazangula Bridge that now is currently being implemented, but JICA was crucial as a co-financier for that project. Now, we're talking about administration governance of the fund. And we're going to go quickly on that because, first of all, African Development Bank serves as legal owner and holder in trust of the fund, assets, and the receipts of the NEPAD-IPPF. The Board of Directors of African Development Bank has a decision-making role in the management of the NEPAD-IPPF. Then you have an oversight committee that provides general policy direction and guidance for NEPAD-IPPF activity. The main function is to review operational focus, propose area of intervention, and to ensure consistency with funds policy. The OC is very important instrument for NEPAD. Also reviews the annual report of activities financed to the funds, and then to ensure consistency with NEPAD-IPPF mandate and the regional intervention. To me, NEPAD-IPPF is constantly in check from our donors to make sure that we align to the strategic direction. Last one is, what is the role of oversight committee and how they comprise? They comprise of 7 members with 3 representatives from contributing donors. 2 members represent the African Union and NEPAD Secretariat. 2 members represent ADB. And then normally we organize 2 oversight committee meetings annually, one mid-year, another end of year. What are our strategic objectives? Because in order to do those things, you have to have a strategic objective, long-term objective, where you're looking. In that aspect, strategic objective of NEPAD-IPPF is to increase the availability of viable, well-prepared regional and continental infrastructure projects that can be supported by project stakeholders to prepare high-quality projects. Then another strategic objective is to enhance collaboration among project stakeholders and project financiers to facilitate the identification, mobilization of project implementation financing. Next strategic objective is to enhance the financial sustainability of project preparation because of regional infrastructure. Because you need to make sure that your fund is sustainable. In order to get that, you have to diversify the sources and the modality of regional project preparation financing. I explained you, okay, in some of these occasions, we co-finance projects with other partners, USCDA, with World Bank, and then other institutions that are in this business of development banking. From time to time, we leverage our funds with co-finance our operation with those institutions. But now, let's go to operation modality of NEPAD-IPPF Special Fund. How we operate. Okay, now, as we said, we work with the regional economic community and the other continental institutions that are seeking assistance from NEPAD-IPPF. But let's start with the screening for eligibility by NEPAD-IPPF, which means we have to make sure that we have ground rules to know which institutions are eligible for our system. We start with strategic alignment. In strategic alignment, what we're looking for? We're looking at client eligibility. In that, for NEPAD-IPPF, since it's a regional project preparation facility, our clients is regional economic community, power pool, specialized institution like power pool, transport corridor institution, water management institution, and then national government from time to time, because the national government that has capacity to provide, has project with capacity to provide services for another country, those national governments are eligible to ask for our system. There is an INGA. It's huge potential to provide energy to many countries in Africa. When government of the DRC requests assistance for INGA, although INGA is in DRC, but is a project with potential to provide output or electricity for various countries. They are eligible for our system. What are the sector eligibility? As I said, is economic sector, energy, transport, ICT, water. Then what is project preparation step eligibility? And as I said, is definition, project definition, feasibility, structuring, transaction support, and a legal and financial role. Which means clients that are seeking assistance for this activity, they are eligible for NEPAD-IPPF assistance. What are geographic eligibility? That's basically either is a project that's located in one country with regional effects, as I said, INGA, or projects spanning to 2 countries, or projects involving more than 3 countries. They are eligible for our system. But they should be aligned strategically with NEPAD priority, with PIDA project. Now we move into PIDA part 2. The projects, the projects that we, or the countries that we want our assistance, normally those projects should be included in PIDA part 2 pipeline. Now we move into technical screening, because we talk about that. I just finished strategic alignment, but you need also to have technical alignment. In technical alignment, we use technical screening to make sure that projects are technically ready to enter into our pipeline. What we consider in this technical screening is financial and economic viability. We give them 25 points. Environment and social impacts assessment, 18 points. Regional integration impact, 85 points, because we are a regional project preparation facility. Transfer of technology and know-how, we give them 7 points. Project readiness, we give them 25 points. This is technical screening criterion to align the project with the NEPAD-IPPF eligibility criteria. The minimum technical score for inclusion of the pipeline is 70%. Now, okay, when the project is in the pipeline, what we do, which means I'm starting talking about our processes. From time to time, we move in the project origination. I thought the request for submission should come from the eligible countries. Then I just explained about screening for eligibility. Once you screen it, you are eligible. We include the project in our pipeline. That pipeline, we move to inclusion in the work program. Once it's in the work program, people like me, the task manager, we move to the field to appraise the project. Once we appraise the project, I mean the outcome of the appraisal of NEPAD-IPPF project is to produce a document that we call PIM, Project Information Memorandum. That Project Information Memorandum will be filtered into 2 different filters. Internal working group meeting is inside the vision to make sure that the document, the Project Information Memorandum that your task manager brings is fit to take to next step. Once the division meeting internally agrees or gives green light to that team, move to interdepartmental working group, or the department will make their opinion on that project before move to approval. And then next step is approval of project. Once the project is approved, it goes to portfolio set implementation, 9 steps. Now, what are the requirements? What is the threshold for approval? In our case, grants up to maximum amount of $1 million is approved by director or PICU. The grants that is between $1 million to $2 million goes to vice president. Grants above $2 million is approved by president of the bank, but with clearance of oversight committee meeting, should be clear. That's the threshold. Now, okay, what is the steps in project preparation? What we get on these things is to say, we start with project inception. We move to pre-feasibility, bankable feasibility, and financial close. But before you talk about project inception, what is the requirement? What is input for project inception? We start with, on the left, political vision. Country strategy and policy dialogue gives you elements in this analysis. You start assessing that for project inception. What is outcome of that inception? Is you have to make sure that key policy and regulatory and institutional framework is in place. And you have to make sure that in that result in committed sponsor that will drive the project. You have to make sure that that process is resulting in producing a technical concept that will guide you to next stage. Next stage is pre-feasibility study. What is input? What element of analytical element of pre-feasibility study is robust project environment with clear and strong political sponsorship. And what is output or outcome of that process? What we want to get from that is needs assessment, market demand, affordability and financial viability, develop an investor appetite, and a technical option to find. This is outcome that we're gonna get from pre-feasibility. Next stage, bankable feasibility study, the input that you get to drive that bankable feasibility study is robust pre-feasibility assessment. Technical and financial viability, you have to make that assessment. What is the outcome or output for that? Is contract design, procurement strategy, detailed project and technical design, and then developer and sponsor commitment. Next step, financial close. What is input? Which means analytical elements, analytical framework that gets to that point of financial close. You need to have a bankable project with robust contracting and procurement strategy. That's input for financial. What is output or outcome of that process? Is an awarded contract, debt and equity finance securities, and then binding performance obligation. They will move to project execution and PCR. That is just when you our process, how we get from a concept to a bankable project that can be that is ready to solicit funding from private and public sector. And the NEPAD-IPPF achievement, yeah, I spoke in the beginning. I tried to contrast ourselves, my presentation, with the previous one. I said, that fund is just 2 or 3 years fund. NEPAD-IPPF is 15 years old fund. We are obligation to provide you with lessons, best practices, and then what we get in these 15 years is that one that I'm going to start now. Which means NEPAD-IPPF approved 95 projects. In that 95 approved projects, 62 projects were completed, 9 projects were cancelled, 24 are ongoing projects. But most interesting is the dollar figure, which means in that 95 approved projects, which means the finance that we get to move those projects is $108 million from contribution from donors and ADB. Then out of that money, so far we committed $99 million in our project. That basically resulted in $25 billion implementation finance raising. Just pay attention, $25 billion implementation finance raising. That set us apart for other funds in the continent. So $25 billion. When you look the projects, the sector make up, or that means implementation finance or financial close, you see my energy, 86% of projects that reach financial close is energy sector. And then 10% come from transport and 4% come from ICT. I told you, I have been in the bank since 2008. And when I see energy sector raise almost 86% of financial implementation finance raised from energy sector, that is outstanding. That reflects my experience. This I'm talking to you, about my experience in project preparation. Now, when you look at the next figure, we need to say 11.35 billion implementation finance if you take INGA, because INGA is moving to get implemented. They have all these contractors alignment for project. We feel that is going to be done. It's moving. This is why we consider that it's reached financial close. Now, okay. Then talking about portfolio as of September, that completed project. When you look, 62 completed projects and 22 energy, 23 transport, 4 capacity building, 4 transboundary water, 9 ICT. When you see ongoing projects that we have now currently in our pipeline, we have 24 ongoing projects, 8 energy, 11 transport, 4 transboundary water, 1 ICT. With all this, with all this benchmark that we have on the bottom. Now, Jeffrey, move to next slide. Okay, then, as you said, the projects, we have projects in different phases. We have projects that are currently under construction. We have projects that are ongoing, and there are projects that are already constructed. In that, they figure to set us apart for other funds, to say, okay, this is a 15-year-old fund. You have project construct, 16 projects were constructed. This is all this in energy, transport, ICT, and then water. You can read those things. 11 projects is currently under construction. And then construction not started with 2 projects. Is to tell you that basically that reflects our 15-year experience. That next slide, let's just see with your own eyes the project that we constructed. This is Gambia-Senegal River Bridge. If you're going now to Gambia, you're going to see, you can cross that bridge. As you see that, it was constructed. Now you see Ethiopia GB3 hydropower. That means just if you go into Ethiopia now, you're going to see the hydropower working fine. Azambula Bridge is under construction. It will be completed next year. It's almost. East African submarine cable system was constructed for a long time. 2012 was ready, functional. But as we say, it's better you see with your own eyes. Don't believe what they are saying. Just see with your own eyes. This is the reason we put this map of completed energy project. What we're saying here, we say out of $22 million financing that coming from NEPAD-IPPF, 21 completed energy project, and 14 among that 21 raised implementation finance in an amount of $22 billion. $22 billion. And then when you look at the right, on your right side, you see map of Africa, you see how NEPAD-IPPF is contributing now to connect Africa. As you look, This is what basically constructed now in energy. When you look there, we in North Africa, unfortunately, just go back, in the north of Africa, unfortunately, we did not do too much because countries like Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, they are ahead in that processes of energy. I mean, they complete different projects that allow them to have a sufficient electricity connection among them. This is why our action will focus more on southern part of Africa, which is sub-Saharan Africa, that till 10 years ago used to be a dark place, but now it's not anymore. When you go now, most of the countries in the region, you see this interconnection working very well. We are very proud of this. We're changing Africa with this interconnection. These projects are projects, physical projects that are now in commissioned, or they are working, or they are under construction. It's not anymore project study, bankability, feasibility. No. This is a real thing. This is what I said in the beginning. We have obligation to bring you concrete things to say, okay, all this money, all your 12 years, what did you do? This is the result. NEPAD-IPPF has obligation to show you the result. The money that we get for preparation, where that money went. And this is in front of you. You see map of Africa that tells you this story, that it's physical project constructed or under construction or is operating now. Those lines. It's the same thing in transport. All this line that you see now, which means in transport, NEPAD-IPPF put $28 million for financing 23 completed transport projects. 10 projects reached financial close with amount of $2.44 billion. On the right side, you see the interconnection, the roads, railway. We see all
Epifanio?
This.
Epifanio? Hi, Epifanio, this is Jihan. So we have 20 minutes before the end of the brown bag. Would you please perhaps wrap up?
Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, I'm going to wrap up.
Perfect.
Okay,
for the question.
Go ahead, Jeffrey. This is ICT. I explain you. This is the capacity building. You see concrete. Just go ahead, Jeffrey. Now, we talk about independent performance review as a fund. This means last year, because of our 15 years of inauguration, we have basically, donors ask for independent evaluation of the fund. This is the outcome of that evaluation. That page, you can read it. You see basically IPPF market position and macro performance. They can read it. We don't have time a lot. Just go next. Now, independent performance review. Now, go next. Okay, this is contribution of NEPAD-IPPF to continental agenda. NEPAD-IPPF is trusted partner across Africa, positively impacted country and regional development. We network across the continent, and then we have access to sector specialists in the bank that support us in preparing key infrastructure projects for board approval. And then we have ability to work with large-scale multinational, multi-country projects, as we explained. Then we focus on the results and then funds raising, as just my presentation showed that we focus on the results. Then, what are the contributions to continental agenda? We contributed to PIDA, Agenda 2063, for African Free Trade Agreement. We contributed to Sustainable Development Goal, Addis Ababa Action Agenda, Paris Agreement on Climate Change, Busan Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation. That's all NEPAD contribute for this global agenda. Okay. Now, forward-looking. We have to adapt ourselves to rapidly changing investment environment. I mean, what we have 15 years ago is good, but now many things change. Therefore, looking at changing landscape in Africa, and we will shift from public sector to private and then PPP projects in our pipeline. We have to have a digital enabling platform to help us just process our project in our portfolio. We have to go to listen to market trends and then sector disruption. Because you have now decentralized energy system and other things, climate change. NEPAD-IPPF has to adapt himself for these new changes in the system. Now, implementation critical reforms. We now reforming the fund to adjust to adapt to these new changes. We approving a reimbursable grant, which means that basically we have ability to provide funding to PPPs and private sector projects, and the financial close that we can recoup that funding. But that will constitute only 25% of our pipeline. We still will continue to process concessional window for regional projects, which should be 75% of our pipeline. We have a technical assistance window. We have amendments to operational procedures and instruments. That's ongoing now. We have extension of the fund duration to 2035. We have implementation of the improvement plan, and we have development of strategic business plan 2021-2025. We have implementation of digital platform to make us more operational efficient in processing our project. Then this is infrastructure impact and development measures. I spoke it in the beginning. Without infrastructure, you cannot have development. That's why this pyramid shows you that you have to start to policy certainty and then transparent political stability and accountability. You have to look at that. Then you move to the infrastructure. You have to have all this energy, ICT, water, transport in order to convince investors, to attract investors to your country or to the region. That's manufacturing, trade, mining minerals. You need to have infrastructure in order to convince them, to attract them to come. Only after that, you can have resulting development impact, which means infrastructure is key enabler of economic development. Then strategic growth arise of NEPAD-IPPF. If it is for growth, operational excellence, we want to focus on that. Funding integration, large part of development value chain. We leverage growth across region. We network economy and capacity across Africa. And this is our team. We have our division manager, Mr. Mike Salau, and the NEPAD-IPPF coordinator. You have our assistant secretary, Vivian and Andre. You have our task manager, Mr. Michela, myself, Epifanio, Pantili Kodo, Janet, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, thank you, Karim, and Josh. That's a small staff. They're trying to drive all these programs. Thank you very much. Thank you very much again for allowing me to share with you what we have done during 15 years of our existence. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Epifanio. Thank you for your time. So Mike Salao is also on the line, so please jump in anytime to answer questions, and the floor is open. We already have 2 questions. One is from Dan Lamy, and he says, does the bank also invest in the construction of projects that the NEPAD-IPPF has developed? Are there enough safeguards to reduce any potential conflict of interest? The issue of causality and attribution comes to mind. Are NEPAD-IPPF funds the sole fund used in project development, or are other participants contributing? Very important to scale magnitude assessments. Over to you, Epifanio.
Okay.
Epifanio, you can also read the questions directly on your screen. You click on Q&A.
Yeah, okay. Okay, let me read. Yes, does the bank also invest in construction project at the Yes, that one, yes, because most of the projects that we have prepared so far went to the concessional window of the bank, which means the bank, we work with the sector task managers to appraise the project and make sure that that project fits the bank and lending program. To me, almost 75 or 80% of projects that I are explaining now that reach financial close, they went through bank lending pipeline and bank board processes. Are there enough safeguards to reduce any potential conflict? Yes, we working with all banks operational procedure. We inside the bank, we are obliged to work with bank's manual operation and bank's guideline. The issue of causality and attribution comes to mind, an issue we always tangle with. Are NEPAD-IPPF funds the sole fund used in project development, or are other participants contributing? No, not solely fund. There are other project participants that contribute in the fund. Sometimes the projects that we put together, is project co-financed by other project preparation facility. And then, by the way, what we're trying to move NEPAD is to leverage our funding, more co-financing from just very strong institution. Co-financing Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia with World Bank, with USDA. We co-financing Ghana, Burkina Faso, Mali with World Bank, and then Agence Française Development. Yes, basically, if our procedure is not strong, you're gonna have World Bank and then Agence Française Development procedure that make it all these things, make sure that the project that is approved is compliant with all the required safeguards. And this is the reason of leveraging with other institutions. Make you basically balance the strengths of different institutions. Projects that we're doing together with World Bank and then other bilateral agents, we take into consideration their procedures also. But of course, we abide by bank operational manual and bank procedure. And then to get this project to financial close, we work with other bank sector departments to make sure that it's going to the board and then is complying to all these safeguards. And then when the project reaches financial close, it reflects all the bank procedures. Now, thank you, Epifanio, for the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Epifanio. So the next one is NEPAD-IPPF was designed specifically to address one of the key constraints to infrastructure development in Africa, the lack of investment-ready projects. Yes. One of your missions is to increase the number of economically, environmentally, socially, and gender-responsive regional infrastructure projects and implement. And among NEPAD's 4 primary objectives, one of them is to accelerate the empowerment of women. My question is, how would you concretely accelerate the empowerment of African women living in LICs, where sometimes money laundering and corruption reign, where women initiatives are not really supported by the government, and yet where women have good viable initiatives and need to be empowered but have no voice because the latter are mostly illiterates and the government intermediaries prefer to keep them ignorant of all these development structure like NEPAD-IPPF. Thank you, Josephine, for this one. Over to you, Epifanio.
Well, let me ask you, NEPAD-IPPF is a regional project preparation facility, mostly women friendly and then women conscious. Why? Because women make part of our processes. Now, I'm gonna tell you our experience. We are processing a project that we call ECRI. It's a ECOWAS project. It's Women in Energy Value Chain project. That project means set up to support women in Senegal, women in Cote d'Ivoire, women in Ghana, women in Nigeria. Why? In Nigeria, they are supporting women to get gas bottling station. Which means that one, you know that most of women in Africa use charcoal, wood to cook. Now, the ECRI will address a different thing. Say, okay, women will be entrepreneurs to own a gas processing facility in Nigeria to provide gas bottling for all other women in Nigeria. It will be not men, it's women project. Now, moving to Senegal, what are we doing in Senegal? Agree. We're doing solar. Women, I mean, it will be running solar project. NEPAD-IPPF is trying now to push this project to structuring, to financial close, to get, development bank like NEPAD-IPPF, like African Development Bank, and the private sector, commercial bank, support ECRI to implement those projects. I mean, gas in Nigeria, solar in Senegal, solar in Ghana, and then gas in Cote d'Ivoire. But for women, not men. Women will be honored, not just basically just work for somebody. No, women will be honored of that business. Okay, next.
Okay, super. Alors, the next one is IPPF considering financing some infrastructure projects preparation with the goal of selling those project preparations to private sector developers. This probably links to one of your slides, Epifanio, about the facility adapting to a change in investment environment, the shifts from public sector to private and PPPs. And so I suppose, yeah, what do you do?
I'm gonna talk to manager. You're gonna work for NEPAD-IPPF, right? You respond the right question. Huh? When we say that, basically, when we say now, we're putting a reimbursable window in place. We're putting a PPP framework is to allow NEPAD-IPPF now to move to approve more PPP and private sector projects. Because PICU currently will be hosting a PPP framework platform that will help bank increase number of private sector and PPP projects that go through its lending program. That will be hosted by PICU 3. And then NEPAD-IPPF also is trying to structure himself to address this PPP private sector. This is what we call a reimbursable grant. Because we cannot give money for private sector like we're doing for the REC, Regional Economic Community. This is why we say reimbursable window. When the project reach financial close, we should be able to recoup our loan. When we give $2 million for private sector project at PPP, if the project reach financial close, it's going to be constructed. Now, the private sector should give it $2 million back to the private sector. Otherwise, we're going to be subsidizing the private sector, and you don't need that.
All right.
If you do that, you distort in the market. You don't need that.
All right. Thank you, Epifanio. Anything to add, Mike? Perhaps on this question about attracting or catalyzing private sector into our infrastructure projects?
No, thank you very much, Jihan, for this. And I think AP has answered the question. Just to say that this is, a global trend today. We all know the huge investment gap that is out there, and how the current COVID situation is also not helping the government to allow, to put, a lot of fiscal resources behind infrastructure development. Hence, the need for private sector to step in. So we are just trying to follow the market trend and trying to scale up our PPP intervention by introducing the new reimbursable grant that you referred to allow us to support our PPP project in a much more bigger scale. And this is what we want to focus on going forward. And I think the role that the IPPF will play will really get us there. And already we have a good relationship with the public sector side. And I think with the virtue that we also in the bank, and then the bank also has a strong dialogue in public and private sector, that will help us to actually achieve this. So this is something that we are really excited about, and that's going to give another dimension to the fund. Thank you.
Super, thank you so much, Mike. There is another one. Is IPPF considering, oh no, this one we answered, apologies. Any other questions from the audience? We have 5 minutes before closing. maybe one for you, Epifanio. So 9 projects were canceled in your portfolio. What are the lessons learned? Could you share them with us?
Okay, I'm happy to share that lesson learned. 9 projects that were canceled. That's basically is at the beginning of stage of NEPAD-IPPF resistance. Why? Because at that point in time, our assumption is executing agents, project sponsor, they have enough capacity to drive the project. At the beginning, we just give them assistance for project preparation. We did not take into consideration their capacity. Then at that point in time, we had some projects that canceled because of lack of implementation capacity of executing agents. And then from that moment, back then in 2010, 2011, we scale up our systems to capacity building. It's at that moment we created West African regional power pool. It's NEPAD-IPPF and ICA that put money in capacitating executing agents. Now they have competence to drive all these regional projects. In the beginning, our assumption was wrong. We thought that basically we just can assist them in the project preparation, and then we did not care about their capacity. Then after these projects that were canceled, that you mentioned, we noticed that basically we need to provide capacity building, and the enable environment reform should be a major piece, a major intervention of NEPAD-IPPF.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. So this is a wrap. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Epifanio, Jeffrey. Thank you, Stefan Achia.
Thanks to you.
You've been very nice with us today, really sharing all this. Thank you. So this is a wrap. We'll see you on the 20th of October, I believe. We have another brown bag session, this time on water and sanitation.
Yeah, Jihan, I see John is asking a question.
Oh, there is another one. Okay. Yes, please go ahead.
No, I think he was asking whether they will receive a copy of the presentation. I think.
Oh yes, for sure. For sure, we will share with you the recording of today, as well as the presentations. But feel free to contact either Valérie Dabadi or myself and Stefan. Okay.
And I think let me use the opportunity to really thank you for the good work you're doing to disseminate, the trust fund activities in the bank, and to raise the profile of trust fund, to really mainstream it in banks operations. So we really appreciate that. And as Stefan mentioned earlier, we'll be looking forward to working with you to, as you can see, the available capacity, commitment capacity of the trust fund are to be strongly supported for us to do all these, to meet all the demands and so on. So we'll be working with you to reach out to donors and mobilize more funding to support African infrastructure agenda. So just thank you.
Please do. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.